What's going on, gentlemen? For those of you that don't know, I run a podcast called The Conversation Station. I'm doing a challenge for myself in September. I'm doing 30 episodes in 30 days. I'm excited to announce that in September, I will be doing 30 episodes in 30 days. 31 days ago, I committed to the world that I would be doing 30 episodes in 30 days. And as of the release of this episode, I will have officially completed the challenge. Here is what went well, what went good, the lessons I learned, the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, so we're gonna start with what went well, move to what went wrong, and then close with some lessons that I learned, and there will be time codes in the description if you wanna skip ahead. So, what went well? What were the wins? I did it. That's the biggest win. The win is the consistency. The win is the putting in the work. The win is following through. That is the by far biggest win, and it's not even close. We sometimes put these commitments out there and we don't follow through, but I followed through, and that's what's big for me. And I think it's interesting because it's something I talk about a lot, is especially when it comes to content creation, is being consistent. And so the fact that I actually did it is the biggest win here. I'm certainly excited that I, got it done. And then number two is I became far more comfortable on camera, right? It's not like I was uncomfortable on camera. I had already done 26 podcasts. But I hadn't done any solo podcasts, which I integrated this month. And more so than that, just doing it every day, I had to search deep for something to talk about sometimes. And so the consistency created an environment where I had to become more comfortable. And I think that's the truth. If you do anything consistently, you're going to get more comfortable with it. You're going to become better at it. I think I'm a better podcast host now than I was at the beginning of these 30 days. And I think it's just been really cool to see how more comfortable I am just being myself on camera, having less of a guard up when broadcasting to the world. And then I think the next thing, which was kind of forced, it was getting over the perfectionism I have in my content. As someone that's super passionate about content creation, I've been obsessed with it since I was 11 years old. So 5 years at this point. I've always wanted my content to be the best. But sometimes your content can't be the best, and it's far more important that you put something out than it's better to put 7 imperfect things out than 1 perfect thing, right? It's better to have an imperfect episode out there on the internet as opposed to it still being on your hard drive because you haven't put it out because it's not perfect yet. And I think that also goes with being more comfortable on camera. Some of it comes down to not being perfectionistic about how I talk on camera, but also in that I've gotten much better at talking on camera. And I think, man, the next thing, and it's kind of all-encompassing here, is learning more about my own thought process, learning more about myself. And that's been one of those things that I was very key on in this entire month, and a lot of my messaging was know yourself. And so I've learned more about me, and that's really important to do, is to learn more about you, because if you don't know who you are, no one else can. Right? You need to know yourself, and it's very important. But for me, it was like, how do I think? Because when you are broadcasting to the world, you have to think hard, especially when you want to talk about impactful topics. You have to research your mind. You have to fill a notebook. And it was really cool for me to see how it evolved, right? How my mindset has evolved around podcasting. And a lot of the learning about my thought process is the mistakes. So on that, here's what went wrong. There were plenty of mistakes. I think this month was by no means perfect. And I guess that primary mistake is when I upticked the consistency in the podcast. Other areas of my life had a downtick in the consistency there. And the biggest one was my sleep schedule. Because I'm up late putting out these episodes a lot of the time, it has really affected the mornings for me. And it's been kind of hard to navigate because it's been something I've been trying to mitigate this month. But it hasn't happened. I haven't been able to properly mitigate it. And so it's something that's difficult to navigate. And so I think it's also important to understand that when you become more consistent in one thing, sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice other things. And it's going to hurt. It's not going to be perfect. You're not just going to become a better version of yourself in every aspect of your life by doing one thing super consistently. But I'm by all means glad I did this, and it's giving me perspective as to what I need to do and how I need to improve. Now, I think in that, the biggest cause of, the sleep is the late night release. Releasing some of these at 11:59. And sometimes they'd go out on one platform at 11:59 and another at 12:01. And so depending on your time zone, I might not have put one out every day. But putting them out super late at night is not great. And it came from a lack of planning on my part, right? And it's something I was trying to get ahead of it, so I had an episode on the back burner, every day. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen for a number of reasons, but all of it falls on me and how I was approaching it. Realistically, I should have been recording for a week leading up to it, but I also wanted it to be based on whatever happened today. Let's talk about it. But it's something I'm navigating and trying to overcome, and it's something that's really important is to plan out your content. Have a backlog of content so that if things don't go perfect, you don't have to sit down and take the hour to record, the 15 minutes to record, but it tends to be more of an hour because you need to set up your video setup, and then you have to collapse it. And it's a whole process. And it's not an easy process to dial in. It requires lots of planning, lots of intentionality. And I'll talk about how I plan to take that lesson into next month in a little bit. And again, the lack of planning. I think the other thing is some of my outlines, because it was every single day, I didn't have as much time to really think out what I wanted to talk about. And so sometimes I was just rambling. And I also think recording late in the day isn't great because your mind is starting to wind down. But the big thing is the other thing that went wrong. Another thing that went wrong is production quality took a hit, for sure. Right? My episodes weren't as perfect. I talked about this earlier, and I had to accept that. But in that, I think there were ways I could have still had my production quality where I wanted it to be. I could have still produced social media content for these episodes, which is important, and I did do it on some of the episodes. And I think the biggest thing is my time management has been an issue this month. And I think it goes with whenever you're doing something new, areas aren't going to be perfect. But I think one of the big things I like to think about is do the thing first and then get intentional with it, right? In a perfect world, we could be intentional while doing the thing for the first time, but that's not reality. The reality is a lot of the time you need to establish consistency and then take the lessons from that and apply them to become intentional, right? And I think the next thing, what does this say? I can't even read my notes, man. What does this say? Quality disruptions? What did I mean by disruptions? Oh, yeah. I think one of the big things was, again, with me not properly managing my time and not putting these episodes in the optimal time of day. It certainly disrupted my evenings sometimes when I'm working on another project and really hunkering down, really in the zone. And then I'm like, I have to snap out of it and go record an episode. It's not beneficial. It wasn't beneficial to my efficiency and how I operated. And then I think the other thing is I didn't see as huge of growth as I may have wanted to on the podcast. We certainly grew. There are certainly people listening to this right now who weren't listening before. But again, I think the lack of growth comes back to a lack of social media content, which is very important in today's world to grow a show, to grow a channel, because that content just kind of, it's a discoverability type of deal. And I think it's all been kind of a mixed bag. As I talked about, to all these negatives, there's a positive, and I think I covered both sides of it pretty well. But like now I want to move into what general lessons, right? What are the lessons I learned that you can go apply to your life? Because that's what's important here. And I think the big thing was a bit around content, right? I did this all without a team. It's just me, my camera, and my it's just me and my equipment, right? That's all it is here. There's not some big team behind this. I edited every single episode. I set up for every single episode. It was 100% me. And what it showed me is like, in a perfect world, I could have a team. But a team isn't a necessity, right? A team is a luxury. And it's important to find a team at some point. But again, that requires capital. Capital that you don't sometimes have. And it's more important to just start executing. That thing that you want to do, go do it, right? That thing you want to do that you want to be consistent on, that you think you need a team for, go do it without the team, because then you'll know what you need and want from a team, and you don't have to put money in, right? I certainly think it would have been nice to have a team, but I don't have a team, and I accepted that, and I still did it. And I love talking about consistency because it was worth it. I'm so proud that I got this done. Like, I can't even express that. The pride I have that I committed and I did it and I was consistent. Consistency is a super important thing, and it's worth it. Consistency is worth it. Consistency is difficult, man. There were times when I did not want to put out an episode, right? I was exhausted, tired, frustrated with the world, but I did it anyway. I didn't let excuses rule my life. I didn't let them control me. And in that, I was able to often control the excuses. And so consistency is always worth it. And again, it was draining. It was draining at times, man. There were nights when doing a podcast episode, I wasn't, I'd done a lot of talking, I'd done a lot of different things that day, and I wasn't feeling it. But guess what? I did it. I did it anyway, and so that goes for a lot of things in life. And I'm excited to figure out what my next 30-day commitment is. Because I like this idea of just doing something every day and then being intentional with it. But I like setting that period of time, because then you just set the next 30-day challenge or the next 30-day challenge. And sometimes you can have multiple going at once, but I think it's important to start somewhere in all of these things. And start with a short-term goal. 1 month is a super short-term goal that you can achieve and have that win. All right. So let's see here. I guess my conclusion, right? What do we all need to keep in mind? What am I going to keep in mind going forward? What do the next 30 days look like, right? I'm going to start there. The podcast is going to return in week 2 of October. So not necessarily taking a week off. I'm taking a week off of releasing to dial in the systems, right? To be intentional with it. To take these things forward and create the best show possible. But I think it's what I just said in terms of the lessons we can all take from this and that I'm taking from this is do something hard for 30 days. Pick that thing you want to do and go do it. Set a commitment. Go post on your Instagram saying, here's what I'm doing. Go find me on social media. Tell me that it's what you're doing. Just tell people. Tell people, set something, man, because it has been so rewarding and so cool to go on this journey and to get some support from the people in my life and to just make it known that this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And I think it all comes down to work hard, right? In all of this, we need the podcast, right? I could focus on the content side of this 30 and 30 challenge, but it is far more important that we focus on leadership, that we focus on the fundamentals behind the 30 and 30 challenge. So it's work hard, keep pushing, become better. Pick your 30-day challenge for October and be consistent. Push forward, and more than important than all of that, have some freaking fun. Thank you guys for supporting me on this 30-day challenge, and I'll speak to you again soon. Let's go! It's a wrap! Woohoo! Let's go! I did it.